welcome to Brake Check. I'm Craig.
And I'm Brian.
And this is episode 7, and we have some more fun topics for us. This week we talk about the Bronco Sport. We talk about backwards sequential shifters. We'll explain what that means. More fun with comments, and, a new segment, Brian. You're going to like this one.
Uh-oh.
And I think you're going to have a lot to add to it. Well, we're going to call them dent stories. So that'll be fun as we get into that. But let's start off with a little baby Bronco, a little teeny Bronco. Very impressive. I'm just going to start it off with kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm going to start it off with way cooler than I thought it would be. You know, if you've been following cars at all, you know there's a Bronco coming, and there's another Bronco coming, and they're not here yet, but they're coming. And this is the baby Bronco, as everyone likes to call it. It's the Bronco Sport, and we had the Badlands trim. This is actually the same exact car we did a walk-around review on in late 2020. At the time, it was not available for driving. Ford hadn't released it. For that, it was just for showroom demos only. But we did get behind the wheel of it, and we actually decided to just drive it strictly on dirt for the review, which was a ton of fun.
And I want to make a note about the dirt real quick, because it was a ton of fun. But there's something that happens in our reviews when we go on dirt.
Everything becomes a WRX?
Yeah, we end up liking everything we drive on dirt. Maybe it's because we drive it like a maniac. I don't know. But anyways, continue.
First of all, those are allegedly drive like maniacs. Let's clear that up real quick. I feel like, well, let me break it down. So when we were driving to this review, you were telling me how unworthy off-road you felt it was, just out of the box, right? And then I proceeded to tell you how wrong you are, as usual, and let you know that, Craig, this has a actual rear locking diff and a center locking diff and all these different things, and you're starting to, okay, maybe, and we were comparing it to the Seltos, because the Kia Seltos actually was a lot of fun. In fact, I would argue more fun dynamically at speed on dirt, but much less capable on dirt than the Bronco. And I think we both agreed on that at the end when we're all said and done. But the takeaway of this whole thing is that it is effectively a Ford Escape with the powertrain of a Focus RS, not the ST, RS shoved underneath it with an 8-speed auto in between the engine and rear diff. And that became evident the more we drove it. And I think that's what was so charming about it. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder with a turbo. It has a actual mechanically torque vectoring rear diff, electronically controlled, but not just a torque vector by brake application. This is an actual mechanical diff back there.
Right.
And even with it unlocked, so we have a test that we do where we'll put a car on an angle and get a tire in the air and see if these traction aids actually work.
Right.
And so we've done this with a couple vehicles now, and we've had varying results. Like the Kia Seltos would have a lock function, but we would still get a tire in the air and it would spin, and the brakes would try and lock and move the power somewhere else. But you could tell it
wouldn't do anything.
It wasn't doing much, right? Like if you were really doing something serious with it, momentum was your only tool.
Right. Subaru
Outbacks, yeah. The Crosstrek, I've done that with the Crosstrek, and it had problems there. This, even without the diff locked or any special of the 7 GOAT modes, we swear it's not the greatest of all time. It just happens to be called GOAT. It would not free spin that wheel in the air just endlessly. Even in its normal function, meant for road use, cruising, it was just ready. This thing is just ready to go off. And as much as we want to make fun of it, it's packing the same technology in it that made Range Rover and Land Rover so credible in their four-wheel independent suspension era of the mid-2000s. What made them what they are today, this has the same tech crammed into it. So make this a reminder to everyone that don't take it lightly. This thing wants to go outside, and you'll learn more from our review when that goes live. It's in the edit queue right now. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool. It wasn't dynamically fun, but it had a meaty tire on it, and it drove accordingly. But it was super quiet on the road.
It was.
In the front row, very comfortable. And I thought
it had the laminated windshield, so it's quiet.
Right. Yeah, the sound screen thing. And that was, man, I was pleased with it. And what was your take? What did you think about it?
Yeah, you keep comparing it to the Escape, the old Escape when it first came out, the first generation Escape.
The great Escape, yeah.
And then, I keep thinking of the Bronco 2, which was actually a truck base, so maybe it's a little different. You know, it was great off-roading. I wouldn't call it a hardcore off-roader, but I would call it a hardcore soft-roader.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, it was definitely way more capable than I expected. We took it in some places that I don't know very many other soft-roaders that would have made it, and it just kept going, really without a whole lot of effort, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was drama-free for sure.
It was very drama-free. Yes, you get some tires in the air, but that's part of independent suspensions. But those independent suspensions gave you such a great ride on the road for a short wheelbase. I was impressed. It was a good package. I do think it's a tad overpriced, but I think it's because it's new and it's just such a hit. And you're not getting any savings on these things. You're paying full sticker on just about all these.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And good. That's good. Good for Ford. That's not a bad thing. It's a hot car. I think the styling is wonderful on it. They did a great job of making the Escape that is boring and generic looking, which some people want. That's fine. To making it look traditional and classic and modern and adventure looking. And so it was really neat. It was a lot of fun. It was a great package on the interior as well. You know what I really liked about it was walking away from it and thinking about the car. You know, that's what we always like to do with these cars. We walk away from them, and then we kind of call each other a week later. Hey, what are you still thinking about on that car?
Yeah, all the time.
So what I keep going back to on this car that I keep thinking about is the amount of thought that Ford put into all the little nooks and crannies, and like Jeep kind of does with Easter eggs. Jeep's really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Ford did with this thing in the adventure aspect. The lights on the rear hatch that you can use for when you're camping, and you can direct them.
Yeah, for cooking.
The bottle opener on the back of the hatch, the accessories you can buy for cargo management and some other things, the little storage box underneath the seat. There's just a lot of neat little things, really outdoor folks that Ford wants you to get out there in the outdoors and adventure, right? There's not a whole lot of cars or cars from domestic manufacturers or mainstream manufacturers that put that much energy and thought into things like that. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. And my takeaway I keep thinking back on is, one, it looks like an LR4 or LR3 with its stadium seating roofline, or maybe an Xterra. It can swallow mountain bikes inside of it. So if you live in an apartment but you're still outdoorsy, this is probably perfect for you. You don't have to have a garage to store all your goodies. I don't think it's a primary family hauler. No, I think it's too compromised for that. But it reminds me, I keep thinking this is the type of European car that we would normally be upset because we don't get it. And the UK gets it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
This is the kind of car that, no, we get it. We have it. And so now when I see people complaining, oh, it's just a baby Bronco, I do think of it differently. You know, the Mach-E is going to get made of because it's not a real Mustang, and we're quoting that.
Right.
People want to make fun of this in the same way. I'm going to disagree with them. I think it's the most off-road capable front-wheel drive based chassis, period, full stop. Mm-hmm. And that's something that there's a huge market for that. People want these things that they can still drive to work and not be uncomfortable and not have, you know, a tent for a roof and that kind of stuff. And this is a really livable package and still really capable. Look, we talked about this in the car when we were driving it. It will go anywhere I want to go within a day's drive of where we live. So, you know, unless we get into the Rockies and I get into something serious, and even then it's going to do most of what I want to do.
I was going to say, it's going to do a lot of those trails.
Yeah.
But not all of them, but yeah.
So it was cool. Hats off to you, Ford. Good work on that. I'm excited for that video to come out and see what people think of it.
Okay. Before we move on to that, one question for you on that, though.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about the Mustang Mach-E in episode 6 about all the controversy of Ford using the Mustang name.
Yeah.
Was Ford too controversial using the Bronco name on this? Should they have called it something else? If so, what should they have called it?
Okay, you said it earlier. I think, and I do full-heartedly agree, it should have been called the Bronco 2.
Okay.
But the reasoning why, and for those that don't know, the Bronco 2 was an 80s model. You go way back when the first full-size Bronco came out, which was, 77-ish, late 70s.
The one based on the half-ton full-size truck. Yeah.
Right. So you went away from the first Bronco, which was smaller, like the size of a Jeep,
Mm-hmm.
and from the 60s, and you went to the next generation, which was more the rounded nose. And they had the bull nose out in the 80s.
Right.
And then it goes to, well, everyone goes, look, we need to save fuel. We want a smaller SUV, but we like the outdoorsy stuff, kind of like we're dealing with today.
Exactly.
And they took the Ford Ranger of then and they chopped it down to a 2-door, 4-seat SUV. And they flipped over left and right and had typical 80s reliability issues like everything in the 80s had. And, it didn't have the best repertoire when it was done. But, man, when you and I were kids, they were in the back of Auto Trader for next to nothing. And I wish we'd bought a fleet of them just to go messing around with right now because they're so cool. You can get them in manual transmission. So anyways, I feel like this is the modern version of that with all the current features and tech and comfort that you want. And obviously much more reliability. So yeah, no, I think it was a mismark. The Bronco 2 is cool. I think the reason they didn't was the Mustang 2 and Bronco 2 were looked at as failures by certain people.
Yeah, I think so.
Historically, I don't see it as that. I see the 80s in general as an automotive failure for everybody. So I would give it a pass, but I get it. They call it the Sport. That's fine. I think the Sport kind of waters down the credit that the Bronco brand has. And I kind of wish they'd done something a little bit different, but still, nonetheless, I still love the product. So
I'm with you. It doesn't bother me. I think Bronco 2 would have been really cool, but I get why they didn't. I think you nailed it on why they didn't. It's funny. The Bronco 2, was it the greatest vehicle? No, it was probably pretty terrible. But it did get us the Explorer, which basically brought us all the other SUVs. So there is that.
That was a segment-inventing vehicle.
Yes. And then eventually, we got a shortened Explorer called the Explorer Sport, which was really a Bronco 2, right?
Yeah, we did.
So, it's weird. Maybe they should have called this the Explorer Sport. I don't know. Anyways, interesting. And
wait a minute.
So.
If you hybrid together the Bronco 2 and the Explorer Sport with the rebranding of the Bronco, which is not really called the Ford Bronco, it's kind of called just the Bronco. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe they just took the Explorer Sport and crammed it into the Bronco name, and there you go, the Bronco Sport. So maybe it is okay.
Yeah, maybe they nailed it. Okay, what do we know though?
Yeah.
All right.
We're just journalists.
So we've got the next topic, Brian. This has been driving us crazy forever. It's so frustrating for something that should be so intuitive. Okay.
Yep.
And let's just go back in the Wayback Machine. But here's what I'm talking about is the backwards sequential shifters.
Well, hang on. Can I define some things real quick for
okay, go ahead.
Certain listeners? What do you mean by sequential? You mean like a auto stick? What Chrysler called auto stick?
Well, that's what I was going to do in the Wayback Machine. I was going to take you to the auto stick. Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry for ruining that. You can cut this out.
No, you're fine. No, go ahead.
Okay, what I mean is that it's a selectable gear automatic, where what used to be park, neutral, reverse, drive, overdrive, whatever, it would be a manually selectable gear section in the gear pattern on an automatic transmission, not a race transmission that's sequential per se. But
exactly.
Okay, sorry.
Right, yeah. So thanks for clearing that up. And we don't mean an automated manual. We don't mean a DSG gearbox. We don't mean a race sequential gearbox.
We also don't mean a CVT, even though this applies to some of those.
Yeah, we don't really mean CVT either, although this could apply there, yes. We mean an actual automatic with a section to go. There's a plus sign and there's a minus sign. You can upshift or downshift. And what we're talking about is where those pluses and minuses are positioned in relation to the gear selector. Okay? That's what we're talking about here.
You mean forward and back or up and down?
Well, the auto stick was side to side. But
that's
yes.
True. That's true.
Which may have been the worst. But but most cars, yes, are up or down for either up or a down.
Real quick, pop quiz time. What cars that Mopar at the time made, or Daimler Chrysler made, what cars can you think of that had the auto stick as an option?
Chrysler 300M.
Check.
Chrysler. Well, probably all those LH sedans, the myriad of ones they had, Chrysler Concord,
the LHS, the Concord,
the Plymouth Breeze, the Dodge Stratus.
Right.
A ton of them.
Also the Plymouth Prowler.
Oh, and the Plymouth Prowler, yes.
And the Dodge
Same
Intrepid.
terrible engine and transmission in that too. Yes.
Totally. Do you know what did not have the slapstick auto stick?
The Viper?
The 3-speed automatic in the Dodge Neon did not have it.
3-speed automatic. Oh.
Okay. It had 1-2 drive.
Yes. Okay. Well, So here's what happens, and this came up. We recently reviewed the Mazda CX-9 not too long ago, and that same week we had the Kia Telluride. Ryan, two similar vehicles, both automatic transmissions, and both have the option to manually select the gear with the plus or the minus. They both do it in opposite ways, and there's two ways to do this.
There's a right way and a wrong way.
There's a wrong way and there's a right way. Now, I'm just going to tell you the wrong way. The wrong way is when you want to upshift. And by upshift, I mean go up in gears in number.
Numerically.
So 2 to 3, 4 to 5. Okay? To go up in the Kias, and this is the wrong way, you push up or away from you to go up. Okay? Now, that may be intuitive to some people, and some car manufacturers swear that it just makes more sense for people. But for you and I, Brian, it is confusing, and every single time we tried to manually select the gear, we did it the wrong direction. Because in the Mazda, they do it the right way. So to go up, to go from 2 to 3, 4 to 5, you pull it back. You pull it towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And to downshift, like if you're going to a turn and you want to downshift and rev match, for the speed you need.
Engine brake, yeah.
Engine brake, you push away from you, just like you should. Now, and here's the reason why we say that. It's physics, baby. It's simple. When you're slowing down, where is the momentum of everything going? It's going forward, right?
Exactly. Yes.
You push, and you push in that direction. That's the direction you should be pushing.
Because you're already that direction.
You're already that direction.
You're already there. You're already moving that direction.
And when you're accelerating, the opposite is happening. G's are going back. Everything's going backwards. You pull towards that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just physics.
So, okay. Can you please explain to me why so many manufacturers have this wrong? And here's the ones I can think of. And there's a lot.
There's a bunch.
I know the only ones I know that do it right off the top of my head, help me out, is Mazda and BMW.
Yeah.
Toyota, Audi, Chevy, and probably just about everybody. Kia, we can throw them in there. They do it the opposite. Why? Please help me.
Ford does the opposite, and I hate to admit it as much as I'm a Volkswagen Auto Group fan. Volkswagen and Audi do it backwards. And it's so, to your point, it's down is up, up is down, because when you are accelerating, not only is it the direction you're going, we've all seen Fast and Furious. When they're bank shift, power shifting, they're going 1 to 2 or 3 to 4 in the shot. Every time. They're going bam, right back towards themselves.
About 10 times.
Per car, per scene. So that's just how it is. So in your mind, every boy racer goes, no, I'm yanking this thing towards me because I'm making the people randy, and I am just speed racer, dude. Watch out. Right.
That's right.
And so every time you and I get into a family crossover and it's set up, up is up, down is down, all of a sudden no one's Randy. No one is setting the world on fire. No one's speed racer, which I'm sorry. My 7-seat crossover should be able to do that.
Yeah. And so we're in there banging shifts and we're pulling it backwards and it's downshifting. We're like, crap.
No. And what it's doing is going beep, 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 beep. Every time I want to downshift, beep, 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 beep. And I'm going, no, stop beeping. And I look down. Oh, no, I've got it floored. I'm trying to downshift to grab a lower gear coming out of a corner, and it just upshifts, and it lugs. And it's the most infuriating thing to a driver. And if you've driven a manual, it's actually more intuitive. Up is down, down is up. Right?
Yeah, this makes even more sense.
Makes even more sense. But anyways, to your point, I may need your help on this because I did a little research on this before we got into it. And what my takeaway is from most manufacturers is that most drivers grew up being trained to intuitively brake to or change gears to slow the car down, like going down a hill and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so in their mind, up is up, down is down, which it just seems more intuitive for more people that didn't maybe grow up on a manual transmission or didn't.
And I guess
watch
it
Fast
does.
And Furious.
And when you say it, it sounds like we're crazy. Like up is up and down is down. Like that almost makes sense. but it just doesn't make sense when you're in the car physically going through these things. It's really confusing for most people that have driven a manual or want to hustle a car through a corner.
Right. Because if you're used to engine braking and driving a manual, hustling through a corner, naturally it needs to be down is up is down, because you're just going to naturally go that way. Now,
so
I think I actually have an intuition, and there's no one's going to admit to this from a manufacturer's point of view. I think I know why it is this way.
Okay.
It's because an engineer counted some things that day, and he realized that his 4 pencils equaled 4. And then he thought to himself, well, while I'm drawing this console graphic and I'm doing the schematics of this electronic shifter that's going to change mechanical gears, up should be up and down should be down. That is how life is. That is how it works.
He must have been ridden to work on a bus that day, or doesn't ever drive.
Well, he doesn't drive. I didn't say he drove cars, Craig. I just said that he designs cars. And I feel bad for this guy because it's his fault, all of it.
Okay. So here's another theory I have for you that someone else has posed. And there's a great article on The Drive by Chris Sue.
Oh, yes.
I may have this wrong. We'll post it in the show notes. Check it out. He probably explains it a lot better than we do as well. But one of the things that they mentioned, one of the car manufacturers mentioned in this article, is, and you nailed it, with they were taught to slow down the car by engine braking, which, whether that's the right way to do it or not, it's a whole other debatable thing of when and where to use that. But it's like, and I don't understand this, but here's the idea. So to slow the engine down, you need to downshift. And so down is down, which is what we don't like. And so one of the car manufacturers suggested it's like pulling the reins on a horse. You pull back to slow it down.
Okay. So that's why so down is down, as in pulling towards you.
You're pulling it back to slow it down. Hey, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, so I hear that gentleman's point. His logic is wrong. It is not correct. But I hear him. And like everything in life, everyone's entitled to be wrong just as much as I'm entitled to be right. And this is inexcusable.
Well, let us know what you think. We thank the manufacturers that do it right. Mazda, BMW, thank you. I will tell you, Brian, there is one Toyota that does it right.
The Toyota that has a clutch?
No, the Toyota Supra.
Oh, that's true. Do you know why?
I think we know why.
It starts with a Bavarian.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic. Fun with comments, and again, these are so entertaining.
I love these. These are the best. This is why we make content for YouTube.
We get a lot of comments, and we don't get them just on YouTube. We get them on Facebook too. I'll go first. This one's from YouTube. And this one is from another F-150 review. I think my last one was too. But this is a different F-150, Brian. This is from the black F-150, the black and chrome one, actually.
Okay.
And this gentleman, we'll just call him S, last name Tahan, or at least that's what his username is, S Tahan. And here's his quote. And I think this is going to be knowledge for us. Again, these are educational. So here it goes. Black and chrome go together like SpaghettiOs and pizza.
Man, if I've never heard poetry in my life, that's it. Is that not it?
Is it poetry, or wait a minute? I think it's good. I think this is a positive comment, number one. And I think he means that they do go together.
That's the way I'm taking it, and I want to be very clear with people listening. I remember explicitly reading this thing, screenshotting it, and sending it to you, and thinking to myself, that's my favorite comment so far.
It's a great comment.
It's great.
But I do want to know, and I want to talk to this guy, because I think he would I would love to have lunch with S. Tahan.
Me too.
Because I want to know who else out there has actually put SpaghettiOs and pizza together.
Look, first of all, it sounds like a great Italian-American fusion. I'm not sure what the problem is. And second of all, Esteban, what's the guy's handle?
S. Tahan.
S. Tahan. If you're anywhere near the central part of America, hit us up. We want to have lunch with you.
We will buy you lunch.
We'll buy you SpaghettiOs and pizza.
Yeah, whichever SpaghettiO flavor you want or pizza flavor you want.
Take your pick. As long as there's not pineapple on it, it's okay.
Anyways, I love that comment. I thought that was hilarious.
That was awesome.
But yes, just just good pros. Good pros.
Oh yeah. Look, I've got one that's also dropping the knowledge, Craig. If you wouldn't mind letting me share.
Yeah, please.
It's from another review that was also a black pickup truck. It's the GMC Sierra 3-liter Baby Duramax, and it's just the insight of this. It just struck me to the core. It's made me think back and reflect on how we handle ourselves and how we write our segments, which we don't write. And I'll just put it out there. It's from King Kugzg. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Kusg. So King Kugzg.
Okay. Yeah,
and
I think you got that right.
And I'm going to quote this. They blow sniff sniff, son.
Yeah. Oh, this is great.
And I'll repeat in case I mumbled too much. They blow sniff sniff, son. No punctuation. So I do want to say that these are the things that don't keep me up at night, but man, I love them. They're so much fun because we put so much time and energy and effort into these pieces, and when those pop up, they actually make me smile. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm pretty sure that one was screenshotted and we sent it to each other as well.
Yeah.
We probably both sent it to each other, but yeah, that one's a hilarious one. I do remember that one coming in the moment it happened, and I just about lost it. Oh, made my day. So
the best. And I've actually, I'm not sure what the sniff sniff is, but I'm glad to know that we're on it.
Well, I'm sure it's just because the diesel emits so much, particulate matter.
Oh, that must be what it is. Yeah,
That's got to be what it is. Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
This is a family show. Okay. So let's move on to a new segment we have, Dent Stories. And Brian, I just want to kind of lay it out what this is because,
Please.
Well, we've all got them. We all have a dent story. I don't care what kind of driver you are, how good a driver you are, gender, whatever. It doesn't matter. We've got a dent story. Even if it's not your own dent story, you have been in a car and got a dent story. So here's what we mean. It's the backstory to when you tried to rearrange the sheet metal on the car you own, or maybe someone else's car, and kind of how that happened and what was going on, and looking back on it, how whether it was a good or bad experience for you. So I'll go first because I know you've got a bunch, and it's going to take you a minute to go through them. So
what does that mean?
Well, just as we go through this segment over time, I'm sure the audience will learn this. But
okay, I mean, I've got a list already going, but okay, I'll take your point.
Here's my dent story. Unfortunately, Brian, it may be my most recent dent story.
Okay.
I would have liked to have told you I had to go on the Wayback Machine to find one of these, but I didn't. Didn't have to go very far back. Maybe a couple years ago, actually. In fact, in the vehicle I still own, my 2011 F-150. In fact, you were involved, and in fact, I blame you. So we can have this on the record. Even though I was driving, it was still your fault. So,
I can witness your fault in this. That's fine. I'll let the listeners know.
I have a pristine old man spec truck.
At the time.
I am an old man, so I'm proud of my old man spec, my chrome, my XLT, my toolbox. No dents, not a scratch on that sucker. I mean, just looking good. Well, we were going to, I think, lunch one day, and you hopped in, and we were working together at that time, and we were in a little bit of a hurry, and I may or may not have gotten a phone call and was distracted, and was on Bluetooth. Maybe the Bluetooth was or was not working. I would like to blame that too. I'd like to blame the Bluetooth. I'd like to blame you, anyone but myself.
Naturally.
But I'd also like to blame the person that moved the dumpster to where it didn't used to sit, okay? The metal dumpster, I don't know what, it didn't used to sit that close. So anyway, okay, anyways.
For the record, you did relocate it. Just going to put that out there.
I put it closer to where it used to be, that's for sure. Okay, so anyways, I'm backing out of my parking spot, pulled forward past the dumpster. The phone rings, and this is a metal dumpster that, a truck picks up and dumps. The phone rings. I answered on Bluetooth. Again, got distracted. We were in a hurry, and I don't know what was going on. I'm sure you were really distracting me and saying something. And I think you forgot something, actually, so it was your fault. I had to stop and back up. And as I was backing up in my old man spec truck that doesn't have a backup camera, and whoever was kind enough to move that dumpster moved it right in my path somehow. and I nailed it, Brian.
Oh yeah.
I pushed that dumpster, metal heavy dumpster, right back to where it should have gone, and so no one else would hit it again. That's why I did it.
Sure. You were thinking of the kids, Craig. That's what it was.
Yeah. But anyways, got out and we kept on rolling and didn't skip much of a beat, but looked at it and bumper pretty good dent, and not only that, ruined my taillight, which you gave me as a Christmas gift later. Thank you for that.
Yep.
I think that's just evidence that you know it was your fault.
That was on an admission of guilt. That was just.
No, I'm pretty sure it was
sympathy for the truck. That's all it was.
No, and then a nice metal scratch, like dent in the metal.
Yeah.
It messed the paint up a little bit. So.
Just under the taillight too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my dent story. And
for the record, you know, in the audience's defense for having to listen to this, I was going back in to get insulin. That's what we stopped for. So
I wasn't going to say that HIPAA rules. I was going to protect your privacy, so I didn't.
Okay,
say it, so.
Gotcha. But yeah, that was a very entertaining day for me. The look and expression on your face after hearing the sound might have been the most joyous part of the whole thing, because you were on the phone.
The worst part was I was on the phone, so I couldn't react.
Right, you're on the phone. You did not skip a beat. I can't remember who you were talking to, but they had no idea. The look of fury and the vein on your forehead that was popping out.
Oh, was I so mad?
And then you get off the phone, and there's some expletives. I think the phone went flying. We inspected the vehicle, and you kind of like, well, it's not that bad. And you get back in the truck, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad. And there wasn't a lot of discussion about the why or the what are we going to do about it, or it was more of, that didn't happen. Let's go get some lunch. I don't want to talk about it.
It's kind of like, you know, someone slips and falls and like they get up real quick and like, hope no one saw that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's exactly what it was, except that you couldn't brush the pants off. Like the dent was there and the taillight was done at that point. So yeah, that was I was determined to get you a new taillight for Christmas because it was pretty close to Christmas, and I was trying to cheer you up on it, and I was shocked at how much more expensive I thought that would be. It was apparently you're not the only one buying that right taillight. That's all I'm saying.
One of the better gifts I've gotten from you, so thank you.
Okay, so where do you want to start on dent stories for me, Craig? Because you know there's regions we can talk about. There's vehicles we can talk about. There's times of year. There's decades. You know. Periods of life that we could pick from. So there's company cars, there's personal vehicles, there's borrowed vehicles, there's your vehicles. It just goes on.
This is yours. You do what you want. You get to pick. I mean, you've got an encyclopedia to choose from, so go for it.
Well, it is plentiful. Let me. I want to start with one of Dad's vehicles, and it just seems the most applicable because, you know, he's not here to question it at this point. This is a win-win. So at one point, I was still in high school, and it was a 2002 Ford F-150. It was like, we called it pewter, but it was really just like metallic tan. And
so the brown one with the automatic 4.2.
V6, yes, and which was the Miata of F-150s that I've
I was going to say, you called it the sports car of trucks, I remember.
By the way, I have never boogied more on a back road than I did with that, and I actually use it for some semi-formal extracurricular driving activities that I will never admit to, and it did
Mom
quite
does
well.
Still listen to this, so you could still get in trouble. Statute of limitations.
It came second to a Miata. That's all I'm going to say. That was it. So anyways,
okay.
An actual Miata. So I am a little background on the story. I am house sitting. Man, Mom is listening to this. This is a problem. I was house sitting for one of our mother's coworkers and family friends, and I had somehow determined that I would use that opportunity to distract my parents from what I was doing for about an hour, and which was just enough time to go to the local off-road trails that we affectionately called hobos because some homeless people were living back in part of it, and they may have caught us a couple times off-roading up there and weren't too happy about it. So anyways, moral of the story is...
Wait. Your two-wheel drive truck, you're taking in the off-road truck. Okay, go. Okay, just to make sure everybody understands. Okay.
Well, one-wheel drive. Let's
and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dad's one-wheel drive truck.
It was Dad's, yeah. Now, you know Dad swapped cars a lot. In theory, it was my truck kind of at the time, but really it was Dad's truck. We had
Okay.
traded out vehicles a few times. And anyways, so there's a giant mud puddle out there that I've been intimidated by for quite some time, and I decided that this was the day I was going to tackle it. I had no idea how deep it was, and I knew it was about, I don't know, probably 35, 40 yards in length. And just to set the stage, it's one of these landscapes where once you enter the puddle, there is no left or right. There is no stop unless you just can't make it. And there's absolutely no backing up. It's not going to happen. So took all the courage that I didn't have. I borrowed some from friends, and I just went for it. And, of course, I got about 20 yards maybe with momentum, and it just completely stopped on the frame rails. And so that's how this started. And it's not so much of a dent so much as a rip. And
Uh-oh.
to make this longer story short, it took about 3 trucks to get it out. I started with the, I won't go much further with that. There were three vehicles to try to get it out. I actually ended up taking a lifted Tacoma on 44s with locking diffs to get it out of there because it was kind of suction cupped in at that point. And
Boy.
you kind of had to break the air bladder to get it out. So we get it out, and in the process, it rips off the lower front bumper. So if you recall that Generation 4 truck, it was a chrome upper section and a black plastic lower. And the black plastic lower from the right side to the very middle had completely ripped off and was pointing forward now. And the left side was still attached from most of its eye bolts. And and so let's forget the mud for a second. I'm thinking now at this point, okay, not only am I late from the story I had made up as to what I was doing at the time.
Took you more than an hour to do all this.
Oh, it took hours to get this thing out. I had to call multiple vehicles in to get me out. And by the way, I'm covered in mud. The truck's covered in mud. The interior's covered in mud.
Oh, jeez.
Every stupid thing you could do. So I get it out, and my dear friend Sam was with me, and who happened to have a Miata as well at the time, and which wasn't very helpful in pulling anything out.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Which we tried. Thanks, Sam. I am in panic mode at this point. And I go, there's no getting out of this. And there's no, let's go get another one and put it on in the time period that I have to work with. And he, cooler than a cucumber, said, don't worry about it. Let's take it to my dad's house, which his parents had a restoration house out in the country out there. We'll figure it out. So we get some baling wire, we tie it up, and it's just kind of flapping around, and we boogie, right? So we get out there, we pressure wash it. It took forever. I mean, it took forever to get this mud off of the thing. And lo and behold, his dad gets home from work while all this is happening.
Uh-oh.
And he looks down and goes, you boys had some fun, didn't you? And we said, yes, sir. And he goes, need some help? I said, absolutely. And he got on the ground with us and got some oversized, some fender bolts, and we got the thing back on there. And the only way you could tell it was broken is if you look behind the license plate, behind the bracket itself. And to this day, I never mentioned it to Dad. I may have told you about it. I don't remember at the time if I did or not. But he did notice the mud falling out for months after that in the driveway. And so nonetheless, it wasn't bad enough to require a paint shop, but I was, at the time, never had been more scared in my life and was convinced that this was the end for my freedom as we know it. And anyways, that was it. But it might have been the greatest heist or crime I've ever gotten away with, and I feel pretty good about it. Now, I say that, I'm sure Dad knew. He just maybe decided not to bring it up. But the mud, I couldn't escape the mud. It kept dropping. Like, he would drive around and chunks would just fall out at random, and this was not a mud vehicle, so there was no excuse for mud to be there. So.
Right. Well, didn't know dent stories would turn into confessional hour, but that's what some of these will turn into. And that's the beauty and the fun of these. Let us know what your dent story is.
Yeah, if you have a dent story, hit us up at thebrakecheckshow.com or brakecheckshow@gmail.com, and we would love to hear all about it.
We would love to hear it. Send us an audio recording or just type it up and we'll read it. They're so much fun. And unfortunately, we're passing on to the next generation. The next generation is doing the same thing. So it doesn't stop. It affects everyone. We've all got one. So
that's for another episode, and I can't wait to hear your version of it.
Oh, I don't. We won't. That may just be an entire episode, but yes. Okay, with that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening, or as you usually say, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching this podcast, and we will talk to you next time.
Yeah. So, anyways, there you go. Thanks for running that ending again. But yeah, that's it. And we're on all the social media outlets. You're better at this, so take that over.
Yeah, you can check us out at you name it: Facebook, Instagram, I think Pinterest, TikTok. Our own website, YouTube. It's very Pinterest.
What do people do on Pinterest at Break Check Show?
I don't know. Go check it out. It's out there. Someone's got one going.
Thanks for listening.